Thank you and welcome to everyone this afternoon. I'd like to call the Operations Committee meeting for Tuesday, February 14th, 2023 to order. I would like to begin with a land acknowledgement. As we gather here this afternoon, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we're extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who've taken care of this land for thousands of years. Then I'll move on. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in any of the matters before us this afternoon? Seeing none. Adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting held on January 9th. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor from Horton, and seconder, Councillor from Laurentian Valley. Any errors, omissions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. And then we'll move on to delegations. I will pass this over to Mr. Perkins to introduce our guests.
Thank you, Chair, and gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Steckley from the town of Renfrew. He's their Manager of Public Works and Engineering down there. He's going to give us a brief overview of a cost share opportunity that they wish to pursue with the County of Renfrew on County Road 2, which is Daniel Street, and the intersection of Galvin and Edie. So thank you very much. Please welcome Mr. Steckley.
You have the floor, John.
There we go. That works. Thank you very much, everyone, committee members and staff, for welcoming me here today to the County of Renfrew to speak to this important initiative. We will dive right into it here. So, as you can see on the map here, the area that we are looking to do some improvements to is at the intersection of County Road 2, Daniel Street, as we refer to it, as well as the intersecting streets of Edie Street and Galvin Street. So it's pretty well central to the town of Renfrew, right in the center of our geographic area. Next slide, please. This is just simply an image of the area to give an idea for those who may not be as familiar with the area. It gives you an idea of the current configuration of the intersection. So the image here taken from standing on Edie Street looking at County Road 2. And in the far left corner would be the offset intersection of Galvin Street. Next slide, please. So the municipal jurisdiction, as it stands with this intersection, the intersection itself is under the County of Renfrew's jurisdiction, County Road 2. And the two adjoining streets, Edie Street and Galvin Street, are local streets that are under the jurisdiction of the town of Renfrew. So the intersection itself, the traffic signals, pedestrian crossings within the signalized intersection are under the current control and jurisdiction of the County of Renfrew. Next slide, please. So to take a couple steps back here to give a brief background and history on this initiative, dates back to September of 2020. The town of Renfrew commissioned Stantec Consulting to undertake a review of County Road 2 at Edie Street and Galvin Street intersection and provide options for the future configuration, giving consideration for operational and safety improvements, as well as growth that is occurring within the area of the town of Renfrew. A total of 5 options were considered and analyzed within that report. And I won't get into the details of these options. However, I do understand that Mr. Hanrath has included within the agenda package today a copy of that Stantec report as well. Next slide, please. So the 5 options that were considered within that report included the following. So the first being a realigned signalized intersection, which is what we're here to talk about today, and the other options being a right-in, right-out access restriction at Galvin Street, with 2 sub-options included within that, one being no signals at the intersection of Daniel and James Street, which is about two blocks north of the intersection, as well as the second option being new signals added at the intersection of Daniel and James Street. So they looked at these options in relation to some of the adjoining neighborhoods that use Daniel Street as their primary arterial road. Looked at some of the benefits, pros and cons of having signals at that nearby intersection as well. The third option was looking at a staggered or offset signalized intersection at the intersection of Edie, Galvin, and Daniel. So along with that option did come a fair number of challenges trying to make that signalized intersection work as one, but with the current configuration of the offset streets not being aligned. And then the last option that was considered at a high level was a roundabout at this intersection as well. A number of concerns and challenges that were raised with that option, primarily due to the area of land that would be required to construct such a piece of infrastructure, the increased amount of land that would be needed to be acquired from private property owners, and of course some of the costs as well were significantly higher. Next slide, please. So the results of the Stantec report, the findings indicated that option 1, being the realigned signalized intersection, did provide the best solution for the 3 main long-term operational criteria, being safety improvements, traffic operations, as well as site access to nearby adjacent streets, nearby developments, as well as nearby private businesses, specifically a local motel and automotive garage. So with the support of both the Town of Arnprior staff and County's Public Works Department, the Arnprior Council made the decision to proceed with option 1, being the realignment of the intersection. Next slide, please. This is just a brief snippet of the current proposed realignment design. There are a number of engineering plans and drawings available that we are finalizing at this time. But this gives just a general idea of, you can see sort of in the top left and the bottom right where it's kind of a dark shaded hatching. That represents sort of the current alignment being offset, and then with the new alignment, the new white roads on the top and bottom, it's swinging the 2 streets towards each other to align them equally and bring them into one controlled intersection. Next slide, please. So the current status of this project as it stands today is the Town of Arnprior. We subsequently initiated an engineering and design assignment in the latter half of 2021, and we are just nearing the completion of that assignment right now. We've worked through the majority of last year and right now finalizing that design and engineering. There's a significant amount of work required. There's some utility relocation work that we are working on the design with Hydro One. Enbridge Gas will be involved, as well as there is property acquisitions that were required on a couple of the corners. One primarily for the realignment of the intersection, another being more associated with a large diameter culvert that the town is looking to replace concurrently. And we too, as I understand, the county is working through their budget process right now. We in Arnprior have just last night actually passed our bylaw for our 2023 capital and operating budgets, and we have included within this year's budget our portion of the construction costs to undertake this project. Next slide, please. So under financial considerations, the current construction estimate for the intersection realignment project is a little more than $1.3 million, excluding HST. I will highlight that this cost does not include the nearby property acquisitions, which the Town of Arnprior has been undertaking on our own to realign. Primarily, it's the Galvin Street local road that there was a significant property acquisition that was required. So the Town of Arnprior is undertaking that on our own, and we've not included any of those costs within the portion of the project which we're looking for the County of Renfrew to contribute. As well, as I mentioned, we are undertaking a large diameter culvert replacement on Edie Street, which again is outside of the controlled intersection, and the Town of Arnprior is undertaking those costs solely at our own cost. Next slide, please. So the portion of the project, which we've currently estimated to be the County of Renfrew's responsibility, is $684,000, excluding HST. So this cost has been calculated based on a breakdown of works to be completed within the county's road allowance versus works within the town of Arnprior's road allowance. So it's really straightforward. Works within our local roads, adjacent roads, for the most part, we are taking responsibility for, and for the most part, the works within the county's controlled corridor, we are looking for the county to fund. We are also, as part of this breakdown of costs, we've given consideration for the jurisdiction and responsibilities as outlined in the County of Renfrew's draft cost sharing with local municipalities policy. This is a policy that the Public Works Department in Renfrew, in the County of Renfrew, has been working on for the last year or so. So we have considered that when we are looking at the cost split as well. So some of the benefits of this proposed realignment project is the intersection has always had poor alignment ever since it was built. Pre-existing access and turning movement challenges at Daniel and Galvin due to the proximity of the Edie Street signals. Currently, the nearby motel parking lot access is actually within the controlled intersection, so it's actually the fourth leg of the intersection, and it has a traffic loop associated with it as well, which is somewhat unique and rare to see in that type of a parking lot. Which does pose problems and challenges. We have had reports of vehicles actually using that parking lot as a means to sort of navigate around the intersection when they do come up to a red light, which is concerning for sure. And as well, in the last year or two even, we have had a number of public safety concerns brought forward to the town of Arnprior, the County of Renfrew, as well as in the media. And these concerns have ranged from concerns of red light runners, speeding on Daniel Street, as well as the increased volume of school children crossing at this intersection to the nearby school on Edie Street. So a lot of these challenges are really in part due to the offset intersection and the irregular geometry of this intersection. Just a note, we'd like to take the opportunity while we're here to speak to sort of other initiatives that we feel will be required on county roads within the town of Arnprior specifically. There are a number of projects which we at the town feel need to be given consideration in the coming years. We'd like to sort of plant that seed now with the County of Renfrew. We'd also like to encourage the county to continue to work collaboratively with lower tier municipalities to coordinate these types of projects where we work jointly together. We have had success in my time with the town of Arnprior on a couple of other projects, specifically our downtown revitalization project a few years ago, where the county partnered with us and undertook a little bit of work on their road as well. It worked quite well, so we would like to encourage that to continue to happen. And lastly, I'd like to commend the County of Renfrew and the Public Works Department staff for taking the initiative of implementing a transportation master plan assignment in the last several months, working with a number of our lower tier municipalities, Arnprior being one, and I understand that will be coming to County Operations Committee and Council in the near future as well for consideration of award. So that's certainly something that we are very supportive of, and we will be recommending that we proceed being part of that assignment. We feel that it's certainly a valuable exercise and will be needed not only in Arnprior but across the county as the county continues to grow. Next slide, please. So I'll just leave with a closing recommendation that the town of Arnprior respectfully requests the County of Renfrew provide confirmation of their intent to participate in this important infrastructure project and agree to fund their portion of works currently estimated at just over $684,000. Again, I know Taylor Hanrath has provided further detail, much more detail in his staff report, and I appreciate that. So this is really, in a nutshell, kind of what we're looking for, the support we're looking for from the county this time. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions or comments that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Certainly, I would open it up for any comments or questions, noting that we do have the report later on that we'll be discussing it. So if the questions are for the town of Arnprior, I would entertain them. If they're just going to be internal questions, then we can deal with it under the report later. Questions, comments? Councillor from Laurentian Valley.
How recent was the estimate of costs provided?
It's quite recent, so this is an estimate that our consulting engineers have been working on. That cost is probably within the last month, I would say. So there's been a few changes. I mean, we have biweekly progress meetings on this project. The most recent was yesterday, actually. So there are continually some tweaks and changes, but there's actually been a few things that may end up resulting in a little bit of a cost savings as well. So it's still quite accurate as far as I'm concerned, but of course, until we go to the market and actually tender and get those results, it's sort of subject to the market conditions these days too, which is a little bit volatile.
Thank you.
Anything further? Seeing Warden Nemo.
Thank you. And just for reference, are there other conditions along the Daniel Street corridor that you might flag for the next 5 to 10 years for us?
That's a pretty open question, but I'll let you go.
I thought it was pretty good, actually.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to try to sort of spell them all out off the fly here, but certainly there is some older master planning assignments that were undertaken a number of years ago. I'm talking like early 2000s. Which identified some concerns that should be looked at on the county's Daniel Street corridor due to growth, a number of which have not really been addressed. It certainly needs another look at it, and that's where this transportation master plan comes into play. It'll give everyone a chance to look at the current growth that we've experienced, and what the future growth is expected to be, and then translate that to impacts to the transportation network. So definitely some improvements that could be made on Daniel Street specifically, as well as the other arterial roads, Madawaska Boulevard and Elgin Street in the town of Arnprior as well.
Warden Neiman, supplementary.
Thank you. And would Arnprior's portion of the master plan involve identifying some other routes that would relieve some of the pressure on Daniel Street? Are there routes that Arnprior itself could beef up, for lack of a better description, maybe off of William or maybe off of Eddy and Division or something like that?
I would certainly say that's something that could be looked at as part of the master plan exercise. It's challenging. That north-south corridor in Arnprior is very limited, primarily because of our orientation towards adjacent to the Madawaska River. There's only so many north-south corridors that go through Arnprior. Allen Drive, John Street being the one most adjacent, which is really a residential neighborhood. And then you go further west and you're onto another county road being Division Street. So I would fully expect that a closer look at Division Street will be part of the master plan exercise, and whether or not there's a way to use Division Street to divert some of those traffic flows. So for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councillor from Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair, to the Warden. 2008, there was a master traffic plan, and Division was one of the main arteries to get out. Then there was going to be a traffic circle at Division and Baskin to get everybody over to the River Road. As John has mentioned, the only roads we have through town directly are Daniel, Division to Baskin to River. There's no other subsidiary or arterial roads to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anything further? Councillor from Horton.
Thank you. I did happen to sit in on I sit as part of the operations committee in the last term of council. The figures that are being presented today are almost double of what Arnprior came here originally with, that we had on the table at that time. I'm presuming that is because the whole intersection construction has changed drastically in order to get to them figures?
I'm not aware of what the previous plan was, but I suspect it's just inflationary pressures, but
A couple of things at play there. So it was probably, 2.5 years ago that we had initially made a request to the county to be a partner on this project. That was really at the conceptual stage, soon after that Stantec options report was completed. So the costs were very conceptual, I'll call them, at that point in time. As well, the method and means in which we tried to allocate the split in the actual responsibility, Arnprior versus county, was not really, it wasn't very detailed at that point, because again, we didn't have a detailed cost estimate breakdown to really determine what cost is pavement, what cost is curb, what cost is lighting, that type of thing. It was pretty high level. So since then, as I mentioned, we've undertaken a detailed design with an engineering firm. We have that design now honed into a very specific design. We have a much better understanding of the scope involved. And in addition, we've also relied on the County of Renfrew's draft policy for cost sharing with lower tier municipalities as a bit of a guide, not necessarily saying that it's the be and end all, but it certainly gives us a bit of a guide and direction to determine where those responsibilities lie and where that split might be. So really just a lot more information that we've put together in the last couple of years.
thank you.
Thank you.
Supplementary?
If I may, Lee, how much of that money that's being forecast today is actually part of the county reconstruction of the road, or is it all just construction of the intersection?
If I may, Chair.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Councillor Porton. So right now, Daniel Street is scheduled for a mill and pave in 2025. However, it would just be reinstating the current geometry, so realigning the intersection wouldn't have been part of that project. This would be over and above.
Okay.
The exact amount, $723,000 for the mill and pave project is being allocated.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Warden Neiman.
Thank you. Just a general comment to Councillor from Arnprior, and then also to our friend. Very impressed, and I know it was a difficult process watching, but very impressed with the idea of redevelopment of the fairgrounds, the old fairgrounds property to residential, and especially with the push towards intensification, and I know it was a struggle for your community, but it made a lot of sense in terms of being able to meet housing needs, but then also for intensification. So I just wanted to recognize that in the chambers. Being a neighbor, you often see the stuff that goes on in the media and social media. So it was a brave decision and the right decision, I think. And this is a challenge as the result of that, but I think it was a necessary challenge. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, and I would just say, yes, those points in intensification and that are important, but that also leads us down the road of development fees and the importance of that, so that when a lower tier municipality or the county is facing increased costs due to development, that the concept of growth should pay for growth can be realized. So I'll just leave it at that. So thank you very much. I don't see any other questions or comments right at the moment, and we'll go from there. Okay, we'll move along to item 7 on the agenda, the Public Works and Engineering Department report. Mr. Perkins.
Stop pushing buttons. Okay. There you go. Thanks, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Steckley, for bringing that that presentation forward. So my report starts on item 1 under information is the County Council 2023 Road Bridge Construction Tour. So this August we are hoping to take not only committee but also council on a road tour of our actual projects. So as you may have noticed in your package, we're over $25 million of improvements in 2023. And we would like to take you out to other areas of the county that you may not get to see too often. So it'll be a full day-long tour, and we will get in touch with you and make sure we can work out a date and a time that works for everyone. We will be leaving from the county of Renfrew, so we'll make that clear right off the top. We'll be leaving from this building, so you'll have to get here for bright and early in the morning, and away we go. Item 2 is a request for assumption from the town of McNabb Braeside. So attached as Appendix 1 is a letter dated May 3rd of 2022 from the Township of McNabb Braeside requesting the County of Renfrew assume Campbell Drive. So the reference maps are attached as Appendix 2, and also attached as Appendix 3 is a letter dated February 8th, 2023 from the Township of McNabb Braeside outlining the redefined limits and rationale for Campbell Drive to be transferred to the County of Renfrew's inventory. There's quite a bit, well, I can go through it all. The resulting traffic recounts from August 9th in 2022 through to August 17th, should be 2022 there as well. Attached as Appendix 4 shows the annual daily traffic was 1,346 vehicles. And the speed study also indicates that 84% of the vehicles are traveling in excess of the posted speed limit. Currently, the department utilizes the Ontario Good Roads Association road rationalization criteria, which is a weighted system, and that's attached for you as Appendix 6 in evaluating assumptions. So the document highlights the 12 criteria associated weightings to assess whether or not a road meets upper tier road standards as an urban center collector or an urban arterial extension. It also identifies a cumulative cutoff point rating of 6 for the evaluation process, using the theory that a road must meet either the criteria for urban center connector or a criteria for urban arterial extension, worth 3 points, plus all 4 criterion for traffic speed, road surfaces, traffic volumes, and road right-of-way, worth a combination of 3 points or another combination of criteria to have a total weight of 6. So attached as Appendix 7 are the results of that roadway, and a total of 11 points out of a possible 15 was obtained using all the criteria as outlined by Ontario Good Roads Association document. So using the 5 specified criterion, 7, 9, 10, 11, and 12, Campbell Drive scores 6 out of a possible 6, or a rating of 100%. So, and with that said, with the Ontario Good Roads Association guidelines, it must meet 100% to be as an assumed road for the upper tier. So with that said, committee is again reminded, because this was brought to committee in October, that the distance now is actually shortened. It was to go from Osborne Street out to Russet, and now it'll actually go to Highway 17. So it still meets the criteria as a collector or a urban connector, because now it goes from a county road to a King's Highway. So that's also part of the standard in the Ontario Good Roads. So it still meets. Historically, the following 3 principles have been employed in road rationalization. They're primary transportation corridors, they're capable of being upgraded to a reasonable standard, and they should represent the shortest practical route along existing roads. Then the following summarize respective levels of government, so what the county is responsible for, what the town of McNabb Braeside is responsible for. So with all that said, in October of 2022, the Operations Committee passed resolution number OPC 22-10-112 that the Operations Committee recommends that resolution OPC 22-10-111 be tabled until February 23rd, and further, staff develop a policy that provides provisions for conditions of a lower tier road prior to being uploaded to the county. So with that said, staff went back and we developed a draft road rationalization policy, which you'll see later in my report. So as the draft of the road rationalization policy may affect the Township of McNabb Braeside's request for the county to assume Campbell Drive going forward, staff proposed to defer a recommendation for this request until April. Item 3 is the policy PW19, which is road rationalization. So attached as Appendix 8 is policy PW19, road rationalization, which staff has developed based on the Ontario Good Roads Association February 1998 road rationalization guidelines, which again is in Appendix 6. Specific requirements that are to be met and are included in the terms of reference are: consider road and compensation throughout the discussion of road transfers. A municipality may upgrade the road or provide the estimated amount of money for rehabilitation to the county. Pavement must meet or exceed the current county's pavement condition index, which is the PCI of 70. Road structure must meet or exceed the current county standard specifications as outlined in policy PW01, road classification and design. The county may request geotechnical testing from the municipality to confirm roadway surface. Involve local municipalities in the decision-making process by encouraging feedback and comments. So staff are requesting that comments be returned to the director by February 28th in order to be considered as part of the final policy to be presented to Operations Committee and County Council in March 2023 for approval. Item 4 is PW01 road classification and design. Attached as Appendix 9 is a bold and strikeout copy of corporate policy PW01 road classification and design. So with the recent request from a partner municipality for the transfer of potential township road into a county road inventory, it was observed that policy PW01 required a complete review. The revised policy is designed to address not only the classification of a particular roadway, but the design criteria as required for the volume of usage. Staff are again requesting that comments be returned to the director by February 28th in order to be considered as part of the final policy to be presented to Operations Committee and County Council in March 2023 for approval. And then item 5 is attached as Appendix 10 is a notice of study commencement for the preliminary design and class environmental assessment study for the improvements to the intersection of Highway 60 and Lake Dory Road, Kokomas Road, located in the township of North Algona, Wilberforce. Thank you, Chair. I'll leave it there. So.
Okay, so do we want to go back and review this report or go on to the bylaw right now?
Yeah, I think
Okay. Okay, so we'll move back to item number 1, the roads and bridges construction tour information. Comments? Seeing none. Item number 2, the request for road assumption from the Township of McNabb-Braeside. Any comments or questions? The councillor from McNabb-Braeside.
So I have quite a number of comments that I could provide now, or I could provide later if this is going to be deferred to April. But I would like to point out a few things at the very least now, if I may.
Certainly, go ahead.
Okay. Is it possible to pull up a map? So this was first brought up by previous council and the past resolution in May, went to October, and then it was deferred to here. So being that I was just elected in November, I'm catching up a little bit on this, but what effectively is happening is that Campbell Drive is part of a network that provides the shortest, quickest route from further along River Road in Horton Township, Whitewater, and from Quebec. So I'll wait for the map there, I guess. Is that possible? Are you working on it? Okay, all right.
It's being worked on, for sure.
It's much more apparent with the map there, so I'll carry on with a few other points.
Sure.
So the purpose of the county road network, and as we just heard, is to provide a continuous movement throughout the county. When Campbell Drive was the first created as an interchange, it was just going through a bunch of farms. We wondered why such a interchange would be put there. And as per the traffic counts, it's clear that most of the traffic is coming from outside of the township, from Horton, Whitewater, and Quebec. Campbell Drive just goes by as a bunch of farms. Evelyn's working away at that map. So when that map comes up, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay, Google mapping me. Okay, well, that's not so bad. There was one of the maps that I wanted to from our package, which could have used too. Basically, if you can find Stevenson Drive, that'll probably do it. That's Campbell there? Yeah, okay, so pan out a bit. Can I walk up there? All right. Okay, so here. All right, so, okay, pan out a bit more. Fine, okay, all right, just leave it right there. So basically, here's Campbell Drive here, and the traffic coming from over here has two options. Move it just a little bit this way. Okay, so from here you come up to from Storyland Road. Where are we at here? Yeah. Okay, is that Storyland? Yeah, further. There we go. Okay, even there, I think that's Storyland there, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So coming from over here, you can either come up Storyland Road, turn left onto the 17, which is very inconvenient, certainly when there's a lot of traffic. We all know about that. You can hit a couple lights here at Bruce and O'Brien, and then carry on. Alternatively, you can come down the scenic route, down the Ottawa, and then at this point here, you cut down Stevenson Road, also a township road, to a stop sign here. This is the only stop from that point to Campbell Drive is this one stop sign. You turn left onto Braylock Road, which was just redone by our township, and then onto Usborne, which is currently a county road, and then onto Campbell Drive. So for commuters, this is the quickest route to get to that Campbell Drive intersection and then on to Ottawa. Check Google Maps, you'll see what I'm talking about. The point is, they figured this out, because if there's 1,384 AADT, it's not from traffic from McNabb Braeside. This is the most sparse part of the population of McNabb Braeside. This is all farms. There's some houses on River Road, a few on Braylock, that sort of thing. Okay?
Okay, so what I'd like to do is, it's good to have the history and the rationale that this is coming from, but let's keep in mind that we are going to have detailed discussions about this, you know, in the near future for sure. So, is there any other really important points that you'd like to bring across at this time?
Yes, seeing we're talking about budget very soon, is at a meeting that we had with Richard Balduke and Taylor Hanrath and Lee Perkins and Daryl England of the manager of the Goshen Road. He confirmed that there is room on that plow route to come from Usborne down Campbell to the highway and back to where he was on Usborne and then carry on with the route. It's actually part of the route that has the least amount of kilometers.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything further on item number 2? Councillor from Horton.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to bring forward that this has been on the table for quite some time, and I realize your comment a few seconds ago, that there is going to be detailed discussion on where we're going to go with this or how we're going to handle it. I still have in my mind that the 6 points that our policy said had to be matched were matched. I disagree with sitting after the fact, changing the rules of the game to suit where we are. We give the municipality the rules of the game, and they met them. I don't believe that we should be changing them rules now to meet what's coming forward. I think we need to honor what they worked towards, and they did with Lee going through it, meet all the criteria. So I do not believe that we should be discussing anything other than taking it forward and discussing it, how we can fund it. In my mind, with the way we're handling it right now, and I know there's a motion from council from previous time, but the whole thing is what's fair is fair, and we did give McNabb Braeside the policies but the county policy that states if you might meet this criteria, then we will accommodate that. And now we are not looking at that particular part of what was given to them fairly. The way I feel that we're shortchanging McNabb Braeside is the bottom line. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Emo.
Thank you. Quick question. The proposed assumption would be from Osborne down to the Highway 417 interchange. It doesn't include from the interchange deeper into McNabb Braeside. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything further on item 2 at this time? Seeing none. Item number 3, policy PW01, road classification and design, road rationalization. Comments or questions? So as you'll see, that's being, comments are being asked to be returned by February 28th. Item number 4, the road classification and design. Similarly, comments are being requested by February 28th to be brought back in March. And then the information item number 5. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 6. Mr. Perkins.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And through you, this is a bylaw for alterations to county roads and structures. So the recommendation here is that the Operations Committee recommends that County Council pass a bylaw approving the alterations to county roads and structures.
Can I get a mover and seconder to put this on the floor? Moved by Councillor from Arnprior, seconded by the Councillor from Laurentian Valley. Mr. Perkins, background, please.
Thank you, Chair, and again through you to committee. So this is a regular housekeeping item for us every year. This is so that we can do traffic control on our roads while we're doing our projects. It's quite a lengthy background there, but that's what we do is we get a bylaw in place so that if we need to close one lane of a bridge or if we're doing paving or anything like that, that gives us the authority to be able to do it on county roads. And if we need to work with lower tier municipalities, we certainly do. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is carried. Move on to item number 7. The Infrastructure Division report can be found on page 74. Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee, I'll start with the information items. Item number 1 is policy PW02, bridges. Attached as Appendix IN1 is a draft revised policy, PW02, Bridges, for consideration and input. Staff requests the comments be returned by February 28th, 2023 to myself in order to be considered as part of the final policy to be presented to Operations Committee and County Council in March 2023 meeting for approval. There's a lengthy background there. The policies come forward on a number of occasions, identifying key issues that committee in the past has not agreed with. So what staff has done is gone through and overhauled the policy somewhat to match with past practices being undertaken.
Okay, thank you for that.
Sorry. Item number 2 is also an information item. Request for proposals RFP PWC 2023-06 culvert supply for replacement of C115 Dunlop Crescent dual culvert. The County of Renfrew Public Works and Engineering Department issued a request for proposals for twin 22-meter long, 2.8-meter wide by 1.95 meter high CSPA culverts to 9 companies. Proposals were received until 2 p.m. January 31st, 2023, and the results are as follows. Armtech Incorporated in the amount of $81,314.20. Atlantic Industries Limited in the amount of $128,487.36. And Devron Sales Limited in the amount of $154,847.48. This procurement followed the requirements of the policy GA01, procurement for goods and services. C115 is Dunlop Crescent dual culvert, which is located on Dunlop Crescent in the United Township of Head, Clare, and Mariah. It outlets onto the Ottawa River, where water levels are controlled by multiple upstream dams. In an effort to reduce the scope of construction for dewatering, it's recommended that replacement for this structure be undertaken from March 20th to April 7th, 2023, when water levels are about 2.5 meters lower than their typical levels. The necessary approvals have been received from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, DFO, and the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry, NDMNRF, for replacement to occur in this timeline. Due to the failed condition of the structure, the bottom of the pipe required emergency works in fall of 2022, and it is not recommended that replacement be postponed to a later year. The costs of for this assignment are $81,314.20 plus HST. Though the 2023 budget is still being presented for approval, there's $415,000 proposed for this replacement, which would cover the construction costs of the county's day labor crew undertaking the works as well. In accordance with the County of Renfrew policy GA01 for the procurement of goods and services, purchases resulting from requests for proposals with results less than $100,000 require approval from the Chief Administrative Officer. As such, approval has been obtained per the requirements of the policy. And I'll stop there, Chair, to see if there's any questions about the information.
Thank you. I'll move back to item number 1, the policy PW02 Bridges. Comments or questions? Move on to item number 2,
Just in bridges.
Councillor Orange Valley.
Sorry, thank you. In reference to the bridges, the actual bylaw that you have updated, is that up for discussion now?
We don't have the bylaw right at this moment.
Okay, I'll wait till we do have it up. Thank you.
Okay. And then we'll move on to item number 2, the request for proposal, the replacement. Mr. Kelly.
I was asleep at the wheel a little bit, Chair, but if I could just ask that Councillor Watt, if he has questions or concerns, that he could submit them to Mr. Hanrath by February 28th, as indicated in here. So if you have questions, of course, you can always address them when the bylaw comes forward. But in the meantime, if you have concerns or questions, either give Mr. Hanrath or Mr. Perkins a call or submit them in writing prior to the February 28th deadline when we need to put this into the committee report. Sorry for backing up a little bit, Chair.
Yeah, so sorry, I could have pointed that out also. So any comments or questions on item number 2? Then we'll move along to bylaws.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee. Item number 3 is a bylaw for PWC 2023-25, rehabilitation of county structure C025, Bourne Road Culvert. And the recommendation is that the Operations Committee recommends that contract PWC 2023-25 as submitted by 1956466 Ontario Inc., JWK Contracting, Pembroke, Ontario, for the rehabilitation of County Structure C025, Bourne Road Culvert, in the amount of $613,882.20 plus HST be approved pending budget approval, and further that County Council pass a bylaw to authorize execution of the contract.
Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Councillor from Madawaska Valley and second by the councillor from McNabb Braeside. Brief background, if you wish.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee. So we issued this tender ahead of time to gauge the pricing for the year ahead. As you can see, there was 8 submissions, which is quite high for some of the projects we've been doing in the past year. It did come in slightly over budget by approximately $44,000 at this point, or $45,000 at this point. However, as you can see by the prices submitted, they are quite competitive.
Thank you for that. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Move on to item number 4.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee. Item number 4 is bylaw for PWC 2023-64, rehabilitation of County Structure B064, Pilgrim Road Bridge. And the recommendation is that the Operations Committee recommends that contract PWC-2023-64 as submitted by Bonisher Excavating Incorporated, Renfrew, Ontario, for rehabilitation of County Structure B064, Pilgrim Road Bridge in the amount of $398,505 plus HST be approved pending budget approval, and further that County Council pass a bylaw to authorize execution of the contract.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor from Arnprior and Councillor Borden, Councillor from Renfrew. I don't know what to call you anymore. Yeah, background, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee. I have to apologize on the previous one. It was approximately $48,000 under budget. This one is approximately $87,000 over budget. The reason for the increase is there was more work than originally anticipated. This was tendered last year, and that number was used to set this year's budget. However, whenever the consultant did a preliminary review, there was a little more deterioration noted this year, so a little more work was required.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, so this one is slightly under what we budgeted for. So any comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we will go back to item number 8, the Operations Division report, and it can be found on page 91.
Thank you, Chair Doncaster. I represent the Operations Division report for February. Under information, item number 1 is winter operations. The months of December and January provided a variety of winter conditions that staff respond to. Table 1 outlines the summary of the winter events, material usage, precipitation amounts for those months. And Table 2 outlines the significant weather events declared for those months as well. You'll note there was 3 in January, so an increase from December, and a little bit of a peak into February. It's been quite a busy month. And as requested by January committee, staff have prepared the following table, which summarizes the winter events and precipitation amounts since 2018-2019 winter season. In viewing the data, it must be noted that precipitation recorded are the totals of a mixture of snow and rain and freezing rain. And the table also provides a summary of types of events which were responded to, as well as the type of amounts of material used during the response. So if there's any information, any additional information required, we can look into that. Item number 2 is spring load restrictions. Under County Renfrew Bylaw 1112, designates reduced load period. In that bylaw, it's from March 1st until May 31st at the discretion of staff. Over the coming weeks, we'll be monitoring the spring weather conditions to determine the optimum time to impose the spring load restrictions. And again, we'll put them on when they're required and take them off as soon as we can to get goods moving again on those roads. And when we put them on and take them off, we place notices in the local newspapers, on the website, to advise haulers of the spring load restrictions. Item number 3 is quotations and tenders. A letter was circulated to the local municipalities, staff, advising them of planned tenders and requesting if they'd like to participate. We have some good news. We have received 6 responses, and they are participating in a various types of tenders. An example would be the line painting tender and street sweeping tender. So good news there. Item number 4 is municipal cooperation. Again, the operations division from time to time helps out some of the other local municipalities. This year, the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan required the use of one of our spare tandem plow spreader units. Theirs was down for repairs, so we lent them that unit, and it was returned to the county on January 11th. And the Township of Laurentian Valley, we were happy to loan a tractor and a sweeper attachment for use on their trail. And we extended the use until February 15th. And again, if they need it longer, we would certainly extend it longer. Item number 5 under fleet management. This is a list of outstanding items for 2022. Item A is the replacement of light-duty trucks, and I'll just say there's a slight error here. It's the company that was awarded was Surgener Chevrolet Buick GMC Cadillac of Ottawa, Ontario, not the one noted on the report here. And we're still waiting for 5 trucks, and we did receive a few on the last week. And we have 2 left to come back. So unfortunately, we weren't able to update this, but we have 2 left, and we're advised that they're being manufactured at this time, so we should see them shortly. Item B is the offset roller. We are still waiting for the additional components for this unit, so it's not operational, so it would be a carryover. And the shoulder spreader, again, we're waiting for additional components to make this unit operational, and we anticipate the delivery shortly. And item D, backhoe, we are waiting for the attachments, again, to complete the unit, and again, we're expecting it shortly. So any questions? We're pleased to take them. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the winter operations. I was happy to see the some of the comparisons that are in there that give us a point of reference for what these numbers are and the history behind them. Any comments or questions? Move along to item number 2, the spring load restrictions. Information item number 3, the quotations and tenders. Information item number 4, municipal cooperation. And item number 5, the fleet management. Seeing none, we have no resolutions in that part, which is fine. So we will go back to item 9 in the main agenda, I believe is where I'm going. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. And as I introduced before DMP, and for the benefit of those who weren't here, if I can, just for a second, just before we begin, looking at what the managers and director has put together for the departmental budget, I just want to acknowledge all the hard work that everybody put in to assembling this year's budget, including the finance division, of course. It's to be noted that coming out of a significantly tough year, balancing the wants and needs of the community as we balance the effects of the pandemic on our work plans, that our regular activities are now costing us much more, and nothing is going to be as significant as you'll see in the operations budget today. Delivering the same services is definitely going to require innovation, creativity, and support from various other sources. However, we're absolutely aware of the effects that any increase may have on the individuals in our community as we live here as well. We were challenged to meet all of our deliverables within the targets set for us in 2022. However, the team has placed before you today a reasonable approach to 2023. You will hear about some alternative service delivery methods and some business cases before you in the next few items, and some innovative approaches to get to our levy targets, some of which involve some significant impacts to our operational models. To that end, there is a need to bring some of the, if there is a need, and I think that we'll take a look again today, there's a need to bring some of the discussion into a closed session of committee to discuss issues of a sensitive nature. Of course, we look forward to actively engaging with you in this year's budget, one of our toughest for the operations department, certainly, and hope that you can appreciate the thought and time that went into its creation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. So we'll start with the resolution recommendation by Mr. Perkins.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And through you, the recommendation here is that the Operations Committee recommends that the draft 2023 Public Works and Engineering budget be approved to the February 2022, February 22nd, 2023 County Council Budget Workshop for approval.
Thank you for that. So I would like to ask for somebody to move and second an amendment that removes the word approved in this resolution. And it would go on to say that the Operations Committee recommends that the draft 2023 Public Works and Engineering budget be forwarded to the February 22nd, 2023 County Budget Workshop for approval. I get a mover for that. The councillor from McNabb Braeside and the councillor for Laurentian Valley. All right, thank you for that. Or all in favor? So that's carried. That's the amendment. Now, can we have a mover and a seconder for the amended motion, please? Moved by councillor from Horton, seconded by the councillor from Arnprior. All those in favor of the amended motion, and that's carried. You have the floor, Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. So what you're going to see here now is the operations budget, also the capital budget for new equipment, and then Mr. Hanrath is actually going to give you a full walkthrough of our capital projects for this summer, and also he's going to present two business cases. One is for what you've seen earlier today from Mr. Steckley for a project in Arnprior, and then also a potential change in and redesign to our Public Works and Engineering staff. So as CAO Kelly said, this was a much difficult budget put together this year. My thanks obviously to the finance staff of Daniel and Jeff, Mr. Foss, and of course CAO Kelly. So with that said, we'll move along. So this year, you're actually seeing a little bit different from previous budget years. We've got an extra column in there that shows you what the 2023 budget baseline would have been. So by looking at this here, so obviously your fourth column over is 2022 budget. And last year, of course, we were at 9.129 million in our operating. So in order for us to provide the exact same services in 2023, our budget would have been 9,900,000. So actually, would have been 10,178,000. So we actually came in at 8.5%. And council mandated that we get to 2.5% increase. So by doing the 2023 budget, and as I'll walk you through soon, we got to 9.7 million for operating. So actually, we've gotten to 6.5%. So I'll walk you through some slides here, and then Mr. Foss will actually just speak to how we've moved some revenue around and how we've used an OCIF funding to do some projects and that sort. So graphically, as you can see, our maintenance budget of 6.5 is the largest of it all. 1.4 goes into equipment. Our housing is what you see in the patrols. So DMP doesn't actually look after our housing. Our housing is handled by Mr. Bolduc and his team. So we do all the buildings that we own and the salt domes and all that sorts of things. Also, the administration budget is 1.1 million. And then infrastructure, of course, sits at 695,000. So again, you see here a 27.3% variance over 2022. So again, in order for us to provide the same services as baseline, it was 27.3% over. So again, at the end of this presentation, Mr. Foss will speak to you about how we've moved money around to do the transportation master plan, which now can be funded from OCIF funding, which is Ontario Canada Infrastructure Funding. So our infrastructure management budget comes in at 695,266. Our public works and engineering operating budget is for the administration is only 1.6%. So basically, that was the cost of living. So that kept us under the 2.5. Our public works and engineering operating budget, which is a 7.1% increase, was due mainly because of the Gallagher report, which was a report that the County Council received last year, which was a study into all the compensation packages for all non-union workers in the county. And as you may or may not know, our workforce, our public works union, is not unionized. So what occurred there was, in order to get them to the 55th percentile, all public works staff were now aligned with all non-union staff on a salary grid. So instead of going with an hourly rate versus annual salary, so in 2023 that had the effect of 14.2% increase. So that would have just been baseline budget would have been 14.2%, and that's with this staff working a 40-hour work week as opposed to 35. So what happens, of course, is office staff. So plow truck driver was compared to an admin assistant for salary comparators. So when the Gallagher report came in, of course, the public works guys work. I'm sorry, there are no ladies, but the public works gentlemen work 40-hour work week. So they're actually, it's right there, is 15% higher than what the office staff would make. And then the public works and engineering operating budget. So this is where we took the massive hits, of course, as you can see. Over our 2021 actual number for fuel, in 2021 we paid $478,000 for fuel. That was our end of the year actual payment. In 2022, with only another month left in the budget, our projection is $633,000, so that equates to a 32% increase in fuel. With that said, so based on the 633, we budgeted 635 for 2023, which is an actual 45% increase over the 2022 budget. So we anticipate these levels to remain high. Also, our insurance for all our equipment and everything increased by 10%. Now, with all that said, staff and myself and the team behind me here, we're actually looking into ways to conserve fuel. So obviously what you would see is, reduced idling, try to use more direct routes. Also, we've started to research what would be practical for the county of Renfrew. So alternative fuels by the fleet, for example, electric, obviously the electric infrastructure is not here yet. So for us, the county of Renfrew is so vast that Southwest Patrol, for example, down in Madawaska Valley, they would run out of charge before they got to their job. So some of the other things that we can definitely look at is compressed natural gas, hydrogen, and hybrid trucks. So to my knowledge, there's nothing of that nature being used in the county of Renfrew yet. So hybrid trucks, pickup trucks are there. They're quite well tested. Unfortunately, they're more expensive right now. So, and also compressed natural gas and hydrogen is actually available for heavy-duty fleets, but again, the cost is astronomical, and you also have the fill facilities. So hydrogen and natural gas, I do have some experience with, so you got to have a high-volume fill. If it's a low-volume fill, it takes overnight for the truck to actually fill with fuel. So one of the things that you got to have then is fueling infrastructure in place. But so you know, we are looking at it because there are opportunities to conserve fuel here. One of the things that we cut completely. So these are the 5 public works yards that you'll see out and about. So your top left corner is the facility that's in Calabogie. The next one is in Cobden, and then the next one is Goshen. And then the bottom left corner is Southwest Patrol in Palmer Rapids, and then of course is the Whitewater Patrol here in Pembroke. So every so many years we do studies on the facilities, and this year, of course, we had site condition studies planned, so we actually cut them completely. So it was $75,000 reduction in that budget, and we will revisit it in the future because obviously the site conditions are very important to the environment and to what the building structures are. So that's something that we'll look at going forward. Proposed reductions for expenditures in 2023. So again, what we done here was we went literally line by line through the budget. As you can see, we've cut out our advertising down to $12,000. So one of the things that the county did recently was implement electronic bids and tenders. When the county redeveloped its website a number of years ago, one of the modules that was available free to us at that time on that redesign was a bids and tenders. So it's electronic. Now with that said, Evelyn, thankfully, we still provide paper. If a mom and pop operation or a smaller operation that doesn't have access to an internet system or whatever, we can provide that benefit to them. But from here on in, our plan is to move from advertising in newspapers to just being online. So that's a $12,000 savings there. The communications radio system is a contentious point. So right now, the County of Renfrew spends $72,000 a year to maintain not only the public works radio system, but also the fire radio system. So what we're proposing here is that we reduce service by $35,000, and we ask municipal partners, other than Aaron Pryor is separate from the county's fire radio system, to fund this extra $35,000. So our system, of course, is $37,000 is what we cost to maintain our public works system. But of course, the fire radio system is a separate system and requires significant amount of maintenance yearly. So we're proposing that gets moved down to the lower tier, that we split that amongst the 16 partner municipalities. Actually, we would bill to that. The office equipment replacement. So when we were putting this budget together in November, our photocopier, which I lovingly call Bob Marley, because he's jamming all the time, was not working well. So since that time, again to Evelyn's credit, we had the gentleman come in and they serviced the machine, and we're hopeful we'll get some more life out of it. So we reduced that by $7,000. And this is a shared unit that we use with development and property. So that was a savings of $7,000. So recruitment. Usually in our budgets, we always had $10,000 left in there for recruitment. So what we've done now is, with the use of electronic and social networking, recruitment, advertising, and newspapers will be removed. And this will be with the public works engineering. This is not corporate wide. This is just with us. So that's a $10,000 savings right there. And then roadside maintenance, we cut $30,000 basically out of our roadside maintenance. Given the success that Mr. Bolduc and his team have had over the last number of years, it was deemed that we could trim it back by $30,000. It's not something we'd like to do more, not less. But anyways, obviously, with this budget, we had to do a little less. So that was $30,000 would be a reduction in our roadside maintenance. Then under small equipment, we normally would budget $65,600, so we cut that by $10,000 down to $55,600. And the rationale here is that, for the most part, most of the small equipment tools that the gentlemen need to do their jobs are now available. So the whippersnippers, the chainsaws, all that sorts of things are already in the patrol. So we're hopeful that we will get by on this amount of money this year. And then again, as I alluded to earlier, with the in our housing operating expenses, we did cut $75,000, which was the studies. So that brings us from $237 down to $162. So capital equipment and replacements. Important thing to remember here is all our capital equipment is given a life cycle replacement. So all these units that you see here are actually life cycled out. Of course, the double asterisk ones are the ones that weren't delivered in 2022, so they're still en route. So that's the equipment. We didn't cut any from the equipment, of course, because obviously they're replacements, and there are some additions. Light duty trucks, as Rick said, there's one coming for the one budgeted for this year, but there's still 2 out there that need to be delivered from last year. Heavy duty truck replacement, there's 3 there, but they're not actually all plow trucks. There's some other heavy duty equipment involved in that. A tractor, in the budget it actually says loader, but it's actually a wheeled excavator that we use for doing the ditching and the roadside maintenance. Our enclosed trailer is for our day labor crew, because they obviously need somewhere to store their tools that's locked and safe. And that last truck there is a heavy duty carryover. So that's hopefully be delivered this year. And again, all these units are funded from reserves. So they're from capital reserves. So with that said, capital under the building repairs and upgrades. So in Calabogie, Cobden, Goshen, Southwest, and Whitewater, we have fuel systems. So obviously county equipment no different than your own municipal yards, all have fuel systems. So all our vehicles come in and fuel up. What we're looking at here is employing an electronic fuel tracking system. So again, this might be an opportunity to conserve fuel and find out where fuel is being used in what vehicles the most. There's quite a bit of data, obviously, and not only that, security. This is a secure system so that people would need a fob or some sort of device to actually access the fuel. So right now, essentially, you can, if you have a key to the lock, you can get fuel essentially, but you'd have to get through a few other hoops, but it's not as secure as it would be with this. And then in Cobden, of course, and Goshen, Southwest, and Whitewater, we need a proper enclosure around our wastewater oil tank. So right now we do have waste oil tanks, but they're not the double-walled proper units that we need. So we identified $25,000 for that as well. And then in Southwest and Whitewater, again, as I alluded to earlier, we have no ladies working for us. It's not that we wouldn't want more ladies, because they're actually better on the equipment. But we have no facilities for ladies in those washrooms. So we actually put money aside to do a feasibility study and a design, potential design, because these would be additions to these buildings. So that's something that we can look at later in life as well. And then in Cobden, of course, Cobden needs a furnace. So that was another $32,000 that was installed in the budget. So realigning and additional staff, as I alluded to earlier, I don't want to steal Taylor's thunder. So Taylor's actually going to walk you through this. Essentially what it does is we're going to realign the engineering and public works group. You'll see Taylor's presentation, but essentially what it would do is we would get a civil designer in-house. We have no one that does design in-house for us. And we need an additional technologist. And with that said, once we realigned, we would need a coordinator in the operations group to run all the, the weed spray program, the salt usage program, a fuel program, all sorts of different, and all the tenders that the operations group put out. Also, in this budget enhancement, we have identified, we went in the engineering group, we had a full-time admin secretary, and we actually thought we could cut that person's time by half 2 budgets ago. So we've been working with a part-time admin assistant in that role, and we found out that for a part-time person cannot complete it. So we want to bring back the full-time administrative assistant. So the salaries for those positions are $256,376, but of course once you add on the benefits, the computer supplies that they need, staff training, it actually comes out to $363,387. And again, as Taylor will present to you later on, the civil designer and the engineering tech, their salaries actually come at a capital. So, and then Mr. Foss may be able to explain it better to you when we get to it. But so right now that's our planned budget, and again we're coming in at 6.5%. And if you would like, I can take you back to the very first slide, and Mr. Foss could potentially explain to us where the revenue offsets and the actual taxpayer cost comes from. Thank you.
Does committee wish to hear from Mr. Foss? Mr. Foss, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. I might take a little different approach and just point all of the committee to your PDF document in your report and page number 98. I'll just give you an opportunity just to get to page number 98. So the budget documents that we will be presenting at the budget workshop next week will follow the format of, I guess, starting on page number 94 through till 1998. But at the summary, I guess, if you will, of the Public Works departmental budgets appear on page number 98. You notice a number of columns. You'll see in the 2022 budget column a number which represents $9,129,022. That is the municipal levy that we raised to cover the operating cost of the entire Public Works division in 2022. So the target that council provided for all departments was 2.5%. So that would have raised the amount of municipal levy that Lee had to work with to $9,357,000. That's not on your sheet, but that would be 2.5% higher than last year. You'll notice that over a couple of columns over to the left at the 2023 budget 2.5% column, that's our target that we're trying to achieve. That came in at $9,721,000. So essentially, he's $364,000 above the target. So that's why when Lee is presenting his budget to you, he's not reflecting a budget that he's presenting at 2.5%. He's presenting you a budget that exceeds that and is actually 6.5% higher than it was last year. The difference is exactly $364,000. That's how much over the budget target that Lee's group came up with. And that actually relates directly to, as Lee mentioned, in 2022, we had a third-party consultant review the entire non-union wage grid. And what the consultant did was identify for us a number of positions that were traditionally positions that worked 8 hours per day versus the majority of our staff that worked 7 hours per day. And from an employment equity or a pay equity position, the consultant highlighted or identified for staff and for council in 2022 that it's not equitable to ask those employees to work 5 hours longer per week, an hour a day, an 8-hour day versus a 7-hour day, to earn the same money as those other employees who were scored with exactly the same number of points in our job or wage classification review. And so the consultant recommended to us that all of those public works staff that are working traditionally 8-hour-a-day jobs that have their wage rate changed to ensure that they are making the same hourly wage rate as their comparators who scored the same points in the job evaluation review. So if we look at just that one issue for Lee's group, that was $364,000 would have been the increase to Lee's budget to compensate for all of those essentially plow drivers and other staff who are working 8-hour days, to compensate for the difference of the 7-hour-a-day rate versus the 8-hour-a-day rate. So that was the challenge that Lee had before him. He's identified $179,000 in cuts that his group is looking at to try and get him toward council's 2.5% target. But in consultation with the CAO and myself and Lee, we found it very difficult for his group to try and find those kinds of operating savings to compensate for this change in salary structure that happened mid-year in August of last year. And so what we'll be doing in the consolidated budget is letting you know that we are offsetting this increased cost for public works through some of the other areas in the budget that we're going to present to you next week at the budget workshop. Some of those are actually using some of our CVA growth, and traditionally we've always dedicated that to our capital reserve plan for rehabilitation of our capital assets. But we're going to withhold a portion of that CVA growth. We had about $1 million in growth, CVA or new taxation growth in 2022. And we're going to use a portion of that to offset these costs that Lee's group is experiencing because of this compensation review that was approved last year. So Lee is in a bit of a unique position. All of the other committees, like the ones that took place this morning in Development and Property, regardless of where their status quo budget was, they are presenting to you a plan to get their committee or their departments back to a 2.5% target. Lee's group is the only one that's not presenting a plan to get you to 2.5%. His plan is to do everything other than compensate for that wage increase because of this third-party consultant's report. So that's the difference. It's $364,407 more municipal levy being invested in the operation department, and that's the exact amount that Lee would have had to find other savings to compensate for this 8-hour versus 7-hour position. For those of you who weren't here in council in 2022, it probably sounds a little bit cloudy, and I'm happy to maybe speak to it a little further or answer some questions, but essentially we're not penalizing Lee's group, if you will, because of the compensation study in 2022, and we're not trying to find other savings in some kind of other operating cost to try and get Lee back to the 2.5% mark. Thank you, Chair. Hope that helps.
Thank you for that. So just a comment. So if the budget pressure that we're looking at here is essentially or entirely the Gallagher report and the wage enhancement or the wage parity, I guess what we would call it, that this budget is at 0% then on the operating side, essentially. Mr. Foss.
Yeah, thank you very much. Not quite, because Lee had to find over and above the $364,000. He found $179,000 in savings, savings or service level reductions, essentially, in order to get him to a position where he's presenting a budget that is going to meet council's target, except for the Gallagher report. Lee's other pressures are certainly found in fuel costs. They're significantly higher, and so he's attempted to try and find some offsetting reductions to compensate for this roughly 35% increase in fuel that he's experiencing, like every municipality in 2023, based on the price of diesel fuel to operate our fleet of equipment. So he's found some offsetting savings that would get him back to the council target, except for the increase because of the Gallagher report.
Okay, thank you for that. Was there consideration given to, I know the answer, but I'll ask the question anyway, consideration to moving all of these positions to 35 hours and not 40 hours?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, excellent question. Yes, actually, we debated that quite a bit. But as you may or may not know, our guidelines are from the municipal or from Ontario Regulation 23902, which is the minimum maintenance standards for roadways. So if we looked at potential layoffs in the summer of plow truck operators, and then we all know the history of trying to get them back in the fall. We did look at that as an option, and we did look at moving them back to a 35-hour work week. But of course, with the minimum standards and with the minimum complement that we have right now in Public Works, I won't say it won't work, but it would have been very difficult to maintain the minimum maintenance standards.
Thank you for that. And one more, I don't want to get into the budget workshop process, but a question that will certainly come up at the workshop is, do we have a payroll contingency that we can use to mitigate the Gallagher report's recommendations and potentially not phase it in for the workers, but to phase it in on our budget? So take half a hit this year, or something like that. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to. That's probably for the budget workshop, but I think it's worth mentioning. Okay, questions, comments? This is not going to be this easy. Councillor from Empire.
Chair, just to clarify, you said half and half. I think we have to give it all. There's no 50% wage increase for the 40 hours, they have to have it. In fact, we're already going to implement it.
Yeah,
So
sorry,
the-
let me explain that a little better. I'm not talking about what the employees are getting, it's how we fund it. Whether it's all through taxation this year or some of it's funded from reserves. And then subsequent in 2024, we would fund the rest of it. It saves the hit all in 1 year of the entire increase. So, anyway. Anything further from committee? Yep, sure. Okay, so I just wanted to, it's a lot coming at us all at once, so I just wanted to kind of take a break at that point. So now we'll move on to the, let me find where I was, capital budget. Taylor, you're going to stand for this one, are you?
Well, he's not done yet.
Thank you, Chair, through you to committee. I'll stand for this one because there's a lot going to be thrown at you. Thank you for the opportunity to present the capital budget for the roads and structures for the 2023 budget. Shown here is a map of all the county roads currently planned to be budgeted for the 2023, highlighted in pink. Highlighted in yellow are those roads which were originally included in the 10-year plan for 2023, but were required to be deferred due to increased benchmark costs. Shown here are all the structures planned for the 2023 budget as red dots. Similar to the roads, a number of structures were deferred in order to accommodate the significant increase in costs seen in the past year within our 2023 budget. And shown here are the proposed revisions to the 2023 budget. So 2 road projects are carryover from 2022. They commenced in 2022 but were not completed. It is County Road 24, Whitewater Road, from Highway 17 to County Road 4 to Greenwood Road. The top lift is to be applied along with shouldering, pavement markings, and cleanup. The other road is County Road 517 Defoe Road in the amount of $70,000. From Saran Road to County Road 62, Cumbermere Road, and all that's left there is complete shouldering and some cleanup. And we saw the presentation from the town of Arnprior. So inclusion of contributing to the town of Arnprior has been proposed as one of the revisions later in the report as well. So what we've proposed would be the addition of $700,000 to contribute to that project. And staff have reviewed a couple of projects that could be deferred in order to make room in the 2023 budget for that project as well. So before diving into the projects themselves, I thought I'd give an explanation of some of the benchmark costs that are used in developing the capital program. So listed here are quite a number of road rehabilitations that are available to the county for use. Microsurfacing would be us going in and applying a surface sealer, such as a microsurface or a single surface treatment. An R1 would be an asphalt overlay in the amount of 40 to 50 mils, depending on what's required, including shouldering and a wider hardened shoulder as well. MR1R is a mill and resurface, so we're going in, we're milling 50 mils, and then we're applying 50 mils of asphalt as well. And that's for a rural cross-section. MR1U would be the same thing, but an urban cross-section with the replacement of some of the curb works and storm sewer repairs as well. PR1 and PR2 are pulverize and paves. So PR1 is pulverize and pave with a single lift of asphalt. PR2 is with 2 lifts. BNS1 and BNS2 are similar to the PR1 and PR2, where it's a single lift or a double lift of asphalt going in, but with more significant base repairs. And then REC1 and REC2 are rural reconstructions. Again, single lift or 2 lifts going in, depending on the traffic volumes. The REC-UNS is an urban reconstruction with nominal storm sewer replacements. So we're going in, reconstructing the road in our urban cross-section and replacing approximately 50% of the storm sewers. And then a REC-U is a full urban reconstruction. The benchmark costs shown here are for our structures. So the chart on the top left is for replacement or rehabilitation of county structure culverts. And the bottom chart is for the replacement or rehabilitation of county bridges. And the 2 pictures shown here, the top right is the replacement of Dunlop Crescent box culvert, which was undertaken by our day labor crew. And the other photo is the rehabilitation of B203 Petawawa River Bridge. And to give an explanation of why we do certain treatments on our roads when we do, as shown here is a map showing the general life cycle of a road based on its pavement condition index, or its PCI. So our roads are inspected, our whole system is inspected on a 3-year cycle. PCI is calculated using a formula from MTO's SP024, and it's calculated based on the deterioration that is noted during inspections. PCI can give an indication of the type of work needed on a road section, but it isn't the only thing to take into consideration. For instance, we're not going to go in and overlay a road that's got a PCI of 30 because that means it's reached near the end of its life cycle. Also shown in the graph here is the deterioration curves. So the red line is a typical road that's been built new, that has nothing done to it throughout its life cycle. As you can see, it just falls to about the 25-year mark and is considered in a failed state at that point. The blue line is if we have a new road that we go in and do preventative maintenance routinely and continually. So that would be after about 10 years, we go in and do a microsurfacing. After about 10 years after that, we go in and do an overlay. And as you can see, it does give us a bit more bang for our buck, but as the road ages, the deterioration starts to accelerate in the long run. The green line shows what we would recommend as a baseline life cycle for a road. So you have a new road, you go in after 10 years, do a microsurfacing to extend the life. 10 years after that, you go in and you overlay the road to extend the life. Then you allow the road to get to a point where you can go in with a pulverize and pave and bring it back to brand new, and the cycle continues going forward. Then I'd also like to discuss bridge condition index. So bridges are inspected on a biennial basis, so we inspect about half of our county structure system every year. The bridge condition index, or BCI, is calculated based on these inspections. It is calculated based on the condition of individual elements and their value. So shown in the two diagrams here are the typical elements on a bridge or a structural culvert. Different elements of the structures have different values. For instance, the structural elements would have a much higher value contributing to the BCI, but there are elements that have little to no contribution, such as drains, wearing surface, and things like that, that are still important for the structure, but don't actually degrade the BCI whenever they're taken into account in the calculation. So that is something to take into consideration whenever we're looking at the rehab bridges flagged for rehabilitation. Some may have a relatively high BCI, but that's because we're going in to fix those elements that don't necessarily contribute to the overall structure of the bridge, but will help that structure last longer going forward. And then I'll dive into the actual projects planned for 2023. So shown here is County Road 1, River Road, from Loquano Road to Algonquin Trail. The length is 2.27 kilometers. The budget is $1,137,007. The PCI is 19 to 24. So we're going in and we're doing a pulverize and pave with 2 lifts of asphalt. Shown here is County Road 20, Bruce Street, from Highway 60 to Highway 17. The length is 3.11 kilometers. The budget is $539,559. The improvement type shown on the asset management plan was a microsurfacing. However, we are going in the urban section and doing some milling and paving as well, just to help further extend the life of the road. County Road 24, Whitewater Road, from Highway 17 to County Road 40. So this is the section that I identified earlier as a carryover. The length is 2.45 kilometers. The budget is $388,000. As you can see, the PCI is a 96 at the moment, but that's because we just put in the base lift of asphalt and we're going in to put in the wider surface lift this coming year. County Road 24, Whitewater Road, from Stafford 3rd line to Highway 17. The length is 2.57 kilometers. The budget is just over 1.3 million. The PCI is shown as 46. However, that is because a small length of this road was rehabilitated in the past, and we're tying into that. So it ups the overall section's PCI, but doesn't take into consideration the poor condition of other sections as well. And the improvement here would be a pulverize and pave with 2 lifts. County Road 37, Murphy Road, from Highway 17 to County Road 26, Dorn Road. The length is 2.16 kilometers. The budget is just over $1 million. The PCI is 15. And the budgeted improvement is a pulverized and paved with 2 lifts. Now, the PCI of 15 here also takes into consideration a section of the road that comes under MTO jurisdiction, which is much worse condition than the county section at this time. So that brings that PCI even further down, but it still requires a pulverize and pave. County Road 37 from County Road 26 Doran Road to County Road 51 Petawawa Boulevard. The length is 0.93 kilometers. The budget is $490,588. The PCI is 29. This was originally planned for pulverize and pave in our asset management plan. However, the town of Petawawa came forward last year in hopes of looking at a possible urban reconstruction in this area. So we're working with the town at this time. They're working with their design consultants. However, we've left it in as a placeholder in case the project doesn't move forward and it needs to be included in the other section of County Road 37. County Road 42, Forest Lee Road, from Highway 17 to County Road 51, Pembroke Street West. The length is 4.22 kilometers. The budget is $759,352. The PCI is 59 to 73. So a caveat on this section, there is a section labeled as a PCI of 59. However, with us going in and doing some culvert replacements, it would bring it up to that 70 threshold that would apply for a microsurfacing. So this is one of those roads where we're going in, putting a surface seal over top to potentially add 7 to 10 years onto the road life. County Road 58, Round Lake Road, from Deer Trail Road to B101, Bonnechere River Bridge. The length is 2.52 kilometers. The budget is $1.257 million. The PCI is 43 to 51. The improvement type is PR2, pulverized and paved with 2 lifts. Similar to other sections, so we are seeing a PCI of 51. That is because certain sections of that road have had a scratch coat in the past, which brought that PCI up. However, it's still flagged for in need of a pulverize and pave. County Road 65, Centennial Lake Road, from 2872 Centennial Lake Road to Black Donald Access Point. This would be a continuation of the road projects that have been happening on 65 over the last 3 to 4 years, I believe. The length is 1.63 kilometers. The budget is $686,230. PCI is 12. The improvement is a basin surface with a single lift. So we're going in with pulverized and paving and doing some base repairs as needed along the road as well. County Road 508, Calabogie Road, from County Road 34, Norton Road to Mill Street. The length is 1.84 kilometers. The budget is $918,160. PCI is 32. The improvement type is a pulverized and paved with 2 lifts of asphalt. County Road 508, Calabogie Road, from Goshen Road to Highway 17. So this would tie into the overpass construction that's currently underway along Highway 17. Depending on the timing of the works, we may just come to their limit and they would tie into our works. So the length here is 4.36 kilometers. The budget is $1.251 million. PCI is 42 to 56, and the improvement type is an overlay. So that 42 wouldn't necessarily fall within an overlay, but it falls within the MTO's jurisdiction. So that part would be rehabbed ahead of time. County Road 512, Foy Mount Road, from B257 Harrington Creek Bridge to Miller Road. Previous committee members will recognize this project. It's been in the works for quite some time. It is 6.57 kilometers long. Proposed budget is $4.49 million. The PCI is 5. The improvement type is a full rural reconstruction. We are working with Hydro One and Bell at this time to have them finish their utility relocates by the end of May so that we can start our construction project going forward. County Road 515, Palmer Road, from Finch Road to County Road 514, Chute Road. The length is 6.5 kilometers. The budget is $2.08 million. PCI ranges from 45 to 64. The improvement type is a mixture of mill and pave and rural reconstruction. So it would have an increased amount of curb work being done, and there's a couple of deeper culverts that need to be replaced as well. County Road 517, Defoe Road, from Radcliffe Township Line, Coulis Road to Saran Road. The length is 2.73 kilometers. The budget proposed is $1.274 million, and the PCI ranges from 10 to 17. The improvement type is a basin surface with a single lift, so we're going in pulverizing paving and doing some base repairs. County Road 517, Defoe Road, from Saran Road to County Road 62, Cumbermere Road. This is one of the carryover projects previously mentioned. So it's at a PCI of 98, but we're going in and finishing the shouldering and applying surface surface seals on the shoulders, and doing cleanup as well. County Road 635, Swisher Road, approximately 0.2 kilometers north of Highway 17. So the length of the entire road section is 2.58 kilometers, but the part we're working on will only be about 300 meters. The budget is $300,000. The improvement happening here is that there is a unique drain in this location that has quite a bit of cover over top of it. So we've gone in and attempted to do a design and build in the last couple of years, but it came in at quite a high price. So we're working with our day labor crew to go in and do a cross culvert installation and to abandon the drain that's in place so that we can maintain flows in the area without causing further damage to the road. As you can see in the bottom left corner, we have had, our operations crews have had to do some patching due to the failed culvert that's there. And we're hoping to get ahead of this so that we can do the culvert replacement before the road gets any worse. County structure B044, Douglas Bridge. It's on County Road 5, 0.3 kilometers east of Highway 17, or Highway 60, sorry. The length of the bridge is 23.5 meters. The proposed budget is 1.8 million. The BCI is 68. It's proposed for a major rehabilitation. And again, as I discussed with the BCI, or Bridge Condition Index description, though the BCI is a 68, we're proposing going in at this time to do a scarification and overlay in order to lengthen the overall life of the bridge without having to do significant structural repairs in the near future. So it's proposed for a full closure and would be about a 15-week duration. However, we will work with the lower two municipalities before going forward with the full closure option as well. County structure B064, Pilgrim Road Bridge, located on Pilgrim Road, about half a kilometer east of Guinea Road. The length of the bridge is 12.8 meters. The proposed budget is $380,000. The BCI is 66. Similar to the other bridge, we're going in, we're replacing the wood deck that's in place, and we're doing some steel repairs and applying a new coating on the steel that's in place. So though that BCI is only a 66, by doing this work now, we're avoiding having to replace the bridge in the next 10 years. So this would be a full closure as well in about a 9-week duration. County structure B257, Harrington Creek Bridge, on County Road 512, Foymount Road, about 2.5 kilometers east of Cormac Road. The length is about 5 meters. The proposed budget is $800,000, and the BCI is a 26. So this structure is included in the 512 reconstruction project. Though the BCI is a 26, the structure is nearing a failed state and will be replaced with a large culvert as part of the road reconstruction project. So it'd be staged construction and about 8-week duration, but that's 8-week duration just for the culvert project. The road project would be much longer than that. County structure B310, Ski Hill Bridge, County Road 58, about 3.2 kilometers west of Stencils Road in the township of Laurentian Valley. The length of the bridge is about 9.15 meters. The budget proposed is about 1.2 million. The BCI of the bridge is 69. However, again, there's still significant concrete deterioration occurring here that we'd like to get ahead of by doing some patch repairs and a full rehab of the deck over top. By doing so, we would significantly improve the life of the bridge going forward. This one is proposed for staged construction with about a 17-week duration. County structure C025, Bourne Road Culvert, located on Bourne Road, about 0.75 kilometers west of County Road 58, Round Lake Road in the township of Laurentian Valley. The length of the culvert is 28.25 meters. The budget proposed is $800,000, and the BCI is 30. So the improvement type is a major rehabilitation on this one. Typically, whenever a culvert reaches that BCI, we would look at a replacement. However, because the culvert has about 9 to 10 meters of cover over top, replacement of the structure would be quite costly and take quite a bit of time. So we've worked with our design consultant on this one to come with a rehabilitation option that significantly improves the life of the structure to about a 50-year life cycle and can be completed this year with stage construction at about a 10-week duration. County structure C115, Dunlop Crescent dual culvert, which I mentioned in my report. It's on Dunlop Crescent, about 0.1 kilometers north of Highway 17, the length in the township of Head, Clare, and Mariah. The length is 22 meters. The proposed budget is $415,000. I believe it's $485,000 actually. The BCI of this structure is 40. The improvement type is a replacement. As I mentioned, we had to go in and do emergency repairs last year as the bottom of the inverts of the culvert had folded in with the ice flows in the spring. So we're going in this spring while the water levels are low in order to replace the structure with our day labor crew. It would be a full closure with about a 4-week duration. County structure C-137, Hanson Creek culverts. They're located on Robertson Line, 2 kilometers west of County Road 2, White Lake Road in the township of McNabb Rayside. The length of the culverts is 24.8 meters. The budget for this project is proposed for this project is $600,000. The BCI of these culverts is 57, and these are budgeted for replacement. We're working with the staff at the township of McNabb Rayside as they want significant road improvements in this area as well. So the county's proposing going in, replacing culverts with a longer structure as it's required in order to improve the road grades, bring the road up to the existing grade, and then whenever the township goes to do their road reconstruction project, they would add to that fill over top of our structure and improve the road significantly. So it'd be stage construction, and our portion of the construction project would be about an 8-week duration. County structure C-191, Dix Road culvert, located on Dix Road, 0.8 kilometers north of Micksburg Road in the township of Laurentian Valley. The length of the structure is about 15 meters. The proposed budget is $200,000. The BCI of this structure is 21. We're working with our design consultant right now on whether replacement or lining the structure would be the most economically efficient. Because there is little cover over the structure, it may be possible to replace the structure at the same or similar cost to lining it. Regardless, it would be stage construction with about a 4-week duration. County structure C-197 at Manskey Swamp Culvert. It's located on County Road 62, John Street, 0.6 kilometers south of Highway 60 in the township of Madawaska Valley. The length of the culvert is 50 meters. The proposed budget is $1.3 million, and the BCI of the culvert is 45. So this structure came up for rehabilitation a couple of years ago, but during the design process, the consultant identified that the culvert was not designed for the amount of cover that is over top of it. At that time, we decided to move forward with potential replacement. While we were looking at replacement, we found out that Bell has underground ducts just over top of the culvert, which are about 9 meters over the culvert. So in order to replace the culvert, we'd have to dig down and support those concrete encased ducts for the duration of the project, which comes at a significant cost. So at that time, we started researching other options and found that there is a concrete box liner that can be installed here. We're working with our design consultants to finalize the design and start the supply contract so that our day labor crew can go in and rehab this one. County structure C-204, Bellows Creek Culvert, located on County Road 12, Westmeath Road, 4.5 kilometers east of County Road 21, Beachburg Road, in the township of Whitewater Region. The length of this culvert is 26 meters. The budget proposed is $600,000. It has a BCI of 42. The improvement would be a major rehabilitation, so we'd have a contractor come in, stabilize the slopes, install better barriers over top of it, do concrete patching throughout the culvert, and stabilize one of the wing walls. This is one of the projects that has been identified as potential for deferral if we should move forward with the intersection realignment in the town of Arnprior. We've discussed with our consultant, and if it were deferred, it wouldn't cause significant increases in the overall construction cost. They would continue on with their design, so we'd propose still continuing a small amount of the budget for finalizing the design. County structure C-325, Nelson Creek Culvert, located on Lake Clear Road, 2.2 kilometers south of County Road 512, Foymount Road, in the township of Bonnechere Valley. The length is 15.4 meters. The proposed budget is $450,000. The BCI of this structure is 21. The proposed improvement would be a replacement. This would be a project undertaken by our county day labor crews. It'd be done with stage construction and take about a 4-week duration to complete. Shown here is a list of all the structures flagged for engineering in 2023. If there are any questions about the ongoing engineering projects, I can answer them. However, there are still a number of RFPs to put out to start the engineering going forward as well. I'll stop there. If there are any questions about our road or structure capital program at this time.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, thank you very much, Taylor, for that detailed presentation. I just wanted to take the opportunity to inform committee that over the past number of years, you'll notice that our capital, our 10-year asset management plan has grown significantly. So one of Taylor's slides there at the beginning was what our cost per kilometer is. So previously, on our asset management plan, when it was laid out in 2014, all the roads in the asset management plan were assumed to be 7.5 meters wide. So since that time, Taylor and his staff have dove very deeply into the asset management plan to actually give you the exact widths of every road. So that had a huge effect on the 10-year asset management plan, because now you'll notice that not all roads are 7.5. Obviously, Round Lake Road is 7.5 meters, Osborne is 7.5, but once you get into urban areas, they turn into 10.5 meter roads and that sort of thing. So Taylor and his group went fully through that asset management plan and put the right widths on the roads. Also, in the last couple of years, anywhere where the road width allows, we've been adding the extra meter, half meter to a meter to the road. So even the roads that were 7.5, they now will be made 9.5 meters wide. If the road width is there, the road base is there. The county doesn't build new wider bases, but what we've learned is not only is it good for maintaining, people using it extra width, but it also helps with edge break by putting the white line a meter in. Then the edge break doesn't, as you've seen from a lot of Taylor's photos. That's what happens with the road is people are pulling the corners tight, as Councillor Watt pointed out on Whitewater Road. So over the past number of years, we've added that extra width to the roads. So you will have noticed that there's significant increases in the cost per kilometer. So with that said, that's how Taylor put this together, and kudos to his crew for diving into the asset management plan and revamping it from the original 7.5 meters. But Mr. Foss will attest to it now that it does have a significant effect on the county levy over the next number of years and where we are going forward. So with that, I'll leave it to Mr. Foss.
Yeah, if I may.
Sure. Taylor first.
If I may, just to add to Lee's point, the benchmark costs have seen a significant increase this year, partially due to the addition of the 1 meter paved shoulder being included in the budget for all of our roads. But we've also seen a significant increase in all of our road projects due to increase in asphalt prices and ditching prices and all aspects of a road construction project. For instance, asphalt went from $75 to $90 a ton in 2021 to $120 to $130 a ton in 2022 for all of our projects, which has a huge impact whenever you look at the number of tons involved in just a single overlay project, let alone a road where we're doing 2 lifts of asphalt.
All right, thank you. Mr. Foss.
Thank you, Chair. I guess Taylor answered a portion of what I wanted to say, was that for a number of years, actually since 2014, the County of Renfrew developed its very first asset management plan, and along with that, we developed a long-term financial plan to ensure that we had sufficient funds in our capital reserve so that we could continue with these annual rehabilitation programs to make sure that we maintain our assets, our linear assets, at the standard that Council has set for us. So that standard is a PCI rating of 70 for our roads and a BCI rating of about 68 for our bridges and culverts. But as Taylor mentioned, what we've experienced sort of over the last number of years is a significant cost increase on our tender documents, whether we're dealing with roads or culverts or bridges. And I'm looking at a document that the Public Works Group sent me in the fall when they sent their 10-year capital plans to me. And the per unit costs have increased on average by about 42%. And that really isn't a shock, I don't think, to members of this committee. Certainly for those of you who were here last year, as the tender results came in, regardless of what we were doing, the costs of those tenders almost always exceeded our cost estimates, our budgets for those jobs. And it's really a reflection of what's going on in the economy as far as construction work was going throughout Ontario. As Taylor mentioned, the second factor is the quantification of those roads that are 10 meters versus the 7.5 meter. But that's driving our 10-year capital plans for public works. So our cost increased estimates over a 10-year period are in excess of $100 million more than our cost estimates would have been just a number of years ago. So that 42 or 43% increase in our per unit costs are really driving our long-term capital plan. So when we get to the budget workshop, one of the things that I'll talk to this committee and all of County Council is, are we still on track? Do we still have enough money under our current funding model to ensure that in 10 years' time, do we have enough money to fund our capital projects, the ones that we know about right now, excluding our growth projects? We've got a development charge study that's ongoing for those, but for our existing infrastructure, will we have enough money to fund it? The other thing I just wanted to highlight for you quickly is that we've asked the Public Works Department in this year's budget to scale back the amount of the capital budget that they were planning to do. And I'll just maybe direct you to page number 102 of your package. And that's in the capital section, and we include the entire capital budget for all departments on page 102, on the capital budgets, but page 102 is the subtotal for the Public Works Department. And you'll see the column about the middle of the page, the 10-year budget projection, total cost for the Public Works Department for 2023 was $42,483,000. That's the budget that was submitted by the Public Works Group to myself as treasurer as we began to develop the budgets this fall. But we've asked Public Works to scale that back, and that's a function of those 43% price increases that we're seeing on the tenders, in addition to the widening of some of the roads, that's standard. So the budget that's coming forward and that Taylor did an excellent job in highlighting for you today, we're proposing a budget of about $34 million. So it's about $8 or $9 million capital budget reduction already. You're going to say, why? Why are we scaling this back at all? And when we start talking about that long-term financial plan, I think that'll become clear to everyone that no longer are we able to fully finance the next 10 years of capital if we use the same financing model that we've had in place since 2014. So the challenges are certainly real, and there's some pretty big numbers there. And I just wanted to ensure that we talked about those things, that the price per unit of road construction has gone up dramatically. And that has a cumulative effect on our next 10 years of well over $100 million in price increases just for the linear assets in the county of Renfrew. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Foss. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, and I'll try to figure out how to phrase this. So you noted, Director Perkins, on that. Thanks again, Taylor. That was a great job. 2012, and then again a revised version in 2017 was our active transportation strategy. You recall, and recently circulated, our own strategic plan was to continue with active transportation. Now I know hardened shoulders are hardened shoulders, they're not active transportation lanes, and I'm not going to go down this road. However, they contribute to active transportation in the area. Perhaps it might be possible that when we get to budget workshop, not to open a Pandora's box, but to monetize hardened shoulders for 2023. Again, I don't want to go down this road because I think it's a reduction in service. However, at your disposal is a policy shift to not harden shoulders and allow for more roadways to get done, But again, as Director Perkins has suggested, the extension of shouldering has extended the life of our roads and contributed to the well-being of our community and provided a safety factor as well. But I just wondered if possible, have that number ready in terms of monetizing that amount as we move forward in the tougher times. Thank you.
Sure, thank you for that. So any questions from committee? Councillor from Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. To Taylor, all the estimates that you gave on the budget, does that include the engineering cost as well, or is that going to be a separate item?
Sorry, Chair, through you to the councillor from Arnprior. That includes the engineering costs as well.
Thank you. Warden, councillor from Renfrew.
Thank you. Quick question. You mentioned the one culvert replacement, I can't remember the name of it, that had the concrete ducts over top of it from one of our communications carriers. Did they have an easement for that, first of all? And secondly, is there a charge back on that if we have to support their infrastructure while we're working?
Took the question right out of my mouth. Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Warden Emo. I would have to look into whether there was an easement in place. If they were to come in nowadays, we would look at a road occupancy permit, and requests such as this, we do try to push them to the fence line in order to not have these issues in the future. Whenever we initially discussed it with them, they did not mention sharing in the cost of supporting their ductwork over top. They did provide us with a design for supporting it, but it was quite costly.
So I
Okay, thank
recognize
you.
the question.
I would hope then that we would have instructed them that we would treat any work they do in the future with as sharp an eye to detail. Thank you.
My thoughts, Taylor.
If I may, yes, we did mention this to them. However, it did end up becoming somewhat of a blessing in disguise, as this rehab option wasn't one that we were aware of in the past and comes in at an equal cost and less impact to the traffic in the area as well. But it was some sharp discussions happening previous to that.
Right, thank you. Anything from anybody else? We're obviously going to have a full day, if not more than that, discussing some of these items and options on both sides, I guess. So I'll leave it at that. We do have a resolution on the floor. I will call the vote to forward this to the budget workshop. All in favor? That is carried. We will move on to item number 10, the restructuring of Public Works and Engineering Department. Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Chair, and Mr. Hanrath will handle this as well.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Committee, for the opportunity to present again. So now we're looking at the restructuring of the department, and though it's been mentioned several times, I'll go into a little more detail, and there is a business case in your pamphlet as well that provides even greater detail than what we'll go over today. So shown on the slide behind me is the current department layout with two divisions, the Operations Division and the Infrastructure Division. There's been little changes made to the staffing in the Public Works and Engineering Department since the year 2000, or since before the year 2000. And our current staffing does complete a number of activities annually, such as road and structure maintenance, inspection of our roads and structures, design of all of our capital program, whether that's completing designs in-house for road rehab projects or coordinating design by consultants on our structures or reconstructions, procurement of contractor and consultant services for those projects, supervising the road and structure construction projects, contract administration, so processing the payments for all of our construction contracts and our consultant services, updating and tracking the asset management plan based on the conditions we find during the inspections, and much, much more. So this is a bit of a zoom in on the Infrastructure Division. Primarily, the infrastructure division is the oversight of all projects requiring greater engineering input. So there's the infrastructure coordinator, who is in charge of our asset management plan for the Public Works and Engineering Department. And they also ensure that we keep accurate condition ratings for all of our linear assets as well. There's the infrastructure technician, who is in charge of all of our corridor control, traffic studies, and oversees all of our permits and locates. There's the capital projects coordinator, who coordinates all of the engineering services that we have to bring in and ensures that all the capital projects move forward on an annual basis without a hitch. There's the construction supervisor, who oversees our day labor group. They typically get tasked with the most complex projects that come up throughout the year, whether that's a culvert project such as that Mansky Swamp culvert that we've never seen done like that in the county before, or a replacement project with quite a bit of fill over top where many things can go awry, and if we had a contractor looking after it, there'd be a high potential for extra costs. And then it's the administrative too, which has been part-time up until now. This person does all of our admin support for our division, drafts and issues all the RFQs, RFPs, and tenders for the capital program. That includes the roads, bridges, structures, and oversees all the payment certificate processing for those projects as well. She also keeps me in line as far as the programs moving forward as well. And the manager of infrastructure, which is myself, which is to support my team as we go forward and report to Director Perkins and committee on any items that arise as well. Then the operations division. So they're primarily oversight of operations and maintenance on roads, bridges, and culverts. They also currently undertake the capital projects on roads requiring rehabilitation and reinstatement. So that includes the design and construction supervision for those. However, that is part of the restructuring. We would like to move that under the infrastructure division. So the truck and equipment operators, these are our boots on the ground and our plow truck drivers. They ensure that our roads are clear in the winter and that the patching and the shouldering is completed in the summer. There's our sign shop fabricator, who fabricates all the signs and orders all the street signs as needed throughout the county. There are our patrol supervisors, who are 4 located in Goshen, Southwest Patrol, Whitewater Road Patrol, and Cobden Patrol. They coordinate the day-to-day operations of each patrol and assign work to the operators throughout. There's the mechanics, who do repairs and maintenance on our fleet. So there's 2 mechanics dedicated to the Public Works fleet and a 3rd mechanic dedicated to the EMS fleet as well. There's the engineering technicians, who are in charge of the designs for the road rehabilitation projects on an annual basis, as well as the supervision on those projects. There's the supervisor of technical services, who oversees the engineering technicians, performs design reviews on all of the road rehabilitation projects, and ensures that all of our standard specifications are up to date on an annual basis and that we're following and meeting the regulated requirements. They also do the planning and the coordination for a number of the operations programs at the moment as well. Administrative assistant 2, again, admin support, drafting and issuing RFQs, RFPs, and tenders, performing reception, and keeping the manager of operations, Rick Bolduc, in line as his programs move forward as well. And then the manager of operations, who supports his team and keeps Director Perkins and all of committee up to date on all of their day-to-day operations as well. So shown here is the proposed restructuring, as well as some additions to the department. So though our team is quite capable and undertake all kinds of complex projects in a high efficient manner, we would like to add to the team to try to realize some efficiencies for the County of Renfrew. So the restructuring would include reorganizing the department to include all capital works on linear infrastructure under a single division, and renaming that division the Capital Works Division. So this would mean that the supervisor of technical services and the engineering technicians would move under my division, and it would become the Capital Works Division. Also included in the restructuring proposal is 3 new positions: a civil designer to perform designs and construction supervision on the replacement or rehabilitation of county structural culverts, a additional engineering technician who would assist the work capacity of the current engineering technical team, and a operations coordinator to move the operations programs ahead while still moving all the other technical services under the Capital Works Division. Not listed here is also moving the administrative assistant 2, who is currently part-time, to a full-time position on the Capital Works Division side. So we did a review of the services completed by the Public Works Department to try and find efficiencies. One of the problems that we noted in how the Public Works Department operates is that there is a high cost to consultant services. For instance, $1.3 million was spent on consultant services from 2016 to 2021 for the rehabilitation or replacement of 36 culvert structures, which comes to about $36,365 per culvert structure. We have staff on hand that are capable of doing these designs in-house. The issue that arises is they don't have the time to complete them. We have done a number in the past, including C058 Constant Creek Culvert Replacement in Greater Madawaska. C115 Dunlop Crescent Dual Culverts Replacement was designed in-house and happening this year. That's in Head, Clare, and Mariah. C142 Quaid Creek Culverts in North Algona, Wilberforce. C222 Pleasant Valley Steel Arch in Whitewater Region. C300 Wolf Road Pipe in Bonnechere Valley. C302 Wingle Creek Twin Pipes in Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards were all designed in-house. However, the issue we have is we can only do one of these designs every 1 to 2 years. So if we had a dedicated person to do those designs, we wouldn't have to have multiple staff working on them, performing extra hours to try to get them done in-house. So the duties of the civil designer would include coordinating any needed studies, such as geotechnical investigations, to support their designs, undertake site surveys and inspection of the structures to support the designs, undertake designs for the county structure culverts, and supervise construction on those projects. The benefits of establishing this position would include a higher quality design, as we would review more alternatives. Typically, our consultants will look at about 3 alternatives whenever it comes to a culvert project. On the ones we've looked at, we look at a list of 12, and we take 3 to 4 to do a deep dive into the ones that make the most sense. Our designs would be tailored to the local market and to improve efficiency with our in-house construction crew as well. We'd have greater schedule control with earlier budget estimates being completed. We'd have greater flexibility for changes. So nowadays, if the design is approximately 60 to 90% along, it becomes quite difficult to make a change in the design if a consultant's doing it. Sorry, by difficult, I mean it can be quite costly. Whereas if it was done in-house, it would be a limited cost increase to make even significant changes to the design. An additional benefit could be a savings per structure on the design and construction supervision if a sufficient number are completed on an annual basis. There could be design or assistance on the designs for trail structures. And we'd have the ability to assist local municipalities if there should be a culvert suspected to meet the requirements to be considered a county structure when it comes time for replacement. So you're about to review the updated county bridge policy. If a local municipality were to flag one of their culverts as needing to be much larger, potentially meeting the requirements to be a county structure, they could put in a request with us to do the preliminary design to establish whether it needs to be large enough before they move to a consultant services at a much higher cost. Sorry, the county would be at the lower cost, the consultant would be at the higher cost. Though this would not eliminate the consultant costs on projects, we would still need geotechnical investigations and design reviews by consultants. Most of our bridges would still require consultants, as they are quite complex and require detailed review by structural engineers. And major road reconstruction projects, for the most part, would still require consultant services as well, as they do require specialized skills in order to do full realignments and things like that. However, the road reconstruction projects, we only typically do one every couple of years or so. The photos shown here are the structures designed and constructed using internal forces thus far. Sorry, on the last slide. So at the top is C058 Constant Creek Culverts. Underneath that is C142 Quaid Creek Culverts. And second from the bottom is C222 Pleasant Valley Steel Arch. And at the bottom is C302 Wingle Creek Culvert. Those are the asset IDs within the capital plan. So the second problem that arose whenever we were doing our review was that the technical team seems to be exceeded its capacity to complete road rehabilitation, design, and construction supervision. So the technical team consists of the supervisor of technical services and 2 engineering technicians. They do the designs and construction supervision for road rehabilitation projects. The work capacity being exceeded has led to like-for-like designs on our rehabilitation projects. So things such as roadside safety, road alignments, and sightlines aren't improved as a part of the design. However, we're looking at improving those going forward. Consultant services on road rehabilitation projects have been required in the past few years as a result of the work capacity being exceeded for the technical team. For instance, in 2022, $77,535.96 for the design of County Road 21, Beachburg Road, and that was for a design that was completed 2 months past scheduled completion date. $36,900 for construction supervision on County Road 65, Centennial Lake Road, and $42,000 for construction supervision on County Road 512, Foymount Road. So the duties of the engineering technician are to design road rehabilitation projects, supervise construction on county road rehabilitation projects, and coordinate the quality assurance testing on the materials used on the construction project as well. The benefits of having a third engineering technician would include improved designs on road rehabilitation projects, with items such as roadside safety alignments and sightlines being reviewed and potentially improved as part of the designs. Reduced or eliminated need for consultant services on road rehabilitations. As I said, if a road were to come up for reconstruction, we may review the need for consultant services on those types of projects, as they require much more time and detailed review. Additional benefits include greater design control and schedule control with designs completed earlier and cost estimates completed ahead of time. Further ahead of time, sorry. And as we reviewed these changes and the restructuring, we identified a third problem, which if we moved the current technical team underneath the infrastructure division, it would cause a gap within the operations division. So the technical staff member, so what we're proposing is a technical staff member to research, coordinate, and oversee and ensure that the operations programs are completed on budget and on schedule. Currently, this is done as a team by the manager of operations, the supervisor of technical services, and engineering technicians as they have time available. However, by establishing an operations coordinator, the existing programs such as the patrol facility repairs, automated vehicle location or AVL program, remote weather information systems, ROS, and service logs would benefit greatly and have a dedicated staff member associated with them. This dedicated staff member could also research, coordinate, and enact new programs such as electronic service records, electronic road patrol, and do more to improve the efficiency and maintenance tracking on the operations programs as well. So the duties of the operations coordinator would include coordinate investigations, design, and rehabilitation for county patrol facilities, coordination and tracking of road maintenance programs, coordination, tracking, and research into improvements on operations programs. And the benefits of having the operations coordinator in place would include having the current technical staff dedicated solely on road rehabilitation, design, and supervision, greater expertise dedicated to advancing the operations and maintenance programs, and a potential for assistance to local municipalities in mirroring or transitioning county operations programs for their own use. And the fourth problem we came across as part of reviewing the potential for efficiencies is the internal design for culvert structures and simple bridges would add to an already heavy workload for the current part-time administrative assistant too, as this person already completes procurement documentation preparation, payment certificate preparation and processing, payroll, reception, permit tracking. Adding to that workload, which is already more than what a part-timer can complete in her allotted hours, would be quite difficult, but they would now have to complete assistance in preliminary design reporting and development and finalizing the reports, greater payment certificates, and greater tracking of stakeholder input on the projects that we complete in-house. So the solution is to move this person to a full-time position. Shown here is the cost comparison table that was pulled from the business case that's in your packet. Added to this table is a comparison of the 2023 program to go over some of the assumptions that were made in developing these tables. So we're assuming that about $10,000 per structure is still required on the in-house designs for some of the structures. This would cover the geotechnical investigation as well as a design review to ensure that our designs are reviewed by a PEng. So we're assuming about $36,000 per structure for consultants to design and supervise construction on culvert projects. This is based on the numbers from 2016 to 2021. Our current technical team can complete road rehabilitation projects with the increased design requirements on about 20 kilometers of road per year. But anything addition to this would either require consultant services or the third engineering technician to be enacted. And the other assumption that was made was that the cost of consultant designing and supervising construction for road rehabilitation projects is approximately $41,000 per kilometer. And this is based on the numbers we received in 2022. So the cost shown for the positions include salary and benefits. The cost for the civil designer and the engineering technician would be allocated to capital projects. The middle two columns show the minimum amount of work that would be required in order to break even on the cost of having these positions enacted. And if you compare it with the 2023 numbers, there is a potential for savings on design fees going forward if we were to enact this. So in summary, consultant services will still be required even with this restructuring, but they can be significantly reduced. The restructuring benefits include improved design, more schedule control, improved operations programs, potential cost savings, greater knowledge base available within the department, and greater potential to support and work in partnership with the local municipalities. So shown here is a tentative schedule moving forward. The restructuring would be completed over the next 4 to 5 months, potentially longer depending on how the hiring process goes. And a review will be completed to evaluate the benefits and impacts associated with restructuring, which would be reported on during the 2025 budget cycle. And I'll stop there to ask if there's any questions. Thank you for the opportunity to present this proposal to all of you, and I look forward to how things proceed.
Well done. So I'll put it out to committee. Any questions or comments? Councillor from Renfrew.
Thank you, Chair. To Taylor, I may be an old guy, but did we not have this presentation last year? And did we not approve it last year?
Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee and Councillor Lynch. Yes, Taylor actually presented this to Operations Committee last year in October, and at that point, Operations Committee recommended that we do it as a business case, bring it forward as a business case to 2023 budget deliberations. So I do apologize to Councillor Bennett and Councillor Lynch for having to go through this again, but I thought it was wise with all the new faces around the table that Taylor could take us through it one more time.
Yes, Councillor from Renfrew.
Thank you, Chair. The last version was a little bit shorter, but the idea, but the idea was at the end of the day, because we're all dollar people, the amount of money we were going to save over time was well worth the presentation. So thanks again, Taylor.
Yes, thank you for that. Mr. Foss.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to point out that we talked earlier about the budget for the Public Works Group. The base budget, the savings or the cost reductions that were being considered in order to meet the target or revised target for Public Works. So the presentation that Taylor made today, the dollars that reflect this presentation are in the very first column of your budget. And we call them sort of budget enhancements. So they're not part of the base budget. This would be something for this committee and then all of County Council to consider whether they wanted to move forward with this as a budget enhancement. So just wanted to highlight that. This is not part of the staff proposed budget. It's a item for consideration by committee and all of County Council as a budget enhancement. There are a number of other departments or divisions that are bringing forward proposals for budget enhancements. So those like this would need to be considered certainly at our budget workshop and then decided upon by council. Thank you.
So just for a point of clarification on that, in the business case, it's certainly in two of these positions, a lot of the costs are allocated to projects, which would be funded from capital. So why are you saying this would be a budget enhancement if it's on the capital side?
And through you, Chair. So there are essentially 4 positions. 2 of them would go against the operating expense of the division. So making that choice would increase directly the levy that would have to be raised to support those new positions. So those are, I think, captured in the admin areas of the budget. On page number, let's get my glasses out, page number 98, the 2 positions that are part of the capital budget, you've correctly identified that those positions then would form part of the capital cost going forward. However, in our 10-year plan, that, again, $200,000 a year, whatever it is, over 10 years is $2 million. So our capital plan over 10 years, we have to invest $2 million into it in order to support these 2 positions going forward. And as Taylor mentioned, there's a cost-saving component to having that these people working as staff members versus the cost that would have to be reflected from external consultants. So correct, you're very correct. There are 2 positions for the operating expense, 2 of them to be considered within the capital budget, and that's why we've highlighted in the far left column, in the budget enhancement column, because they have not been considered as part of the base budget because we don't have those positions right now. They'd have to be considered as a business plan to be approved by County Council at the budget workshop.
Okay, thank you for that. And any further questions or comments on either operating or capital at this point? Okay. I have no idea where I'm at right now. So we have the motion. I'm just going to call all in favor.
We haven't had a mover and a seconder yet.
Why did I let this go on then?
Sorry, Chair. Item 10 is the restructuring of Public Works and Engineering. I'll reread the recommendation. The recommendation here is that the Operations Committee approves the proposed restructuring of Public Works and Engineering Department as presented in the business case as follows.
Thank you for that. I'll be okay. Can I get a mover and seconder for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor from Madawaska Valley, seconded by Councillor from Laurentian Valley. Comments, questions? Councillor from McNabb-Braeside.
Just to clarify, the wording is correct that we're approving this, or are we forwarding this towards the budget process?
The resolution is this be presented in the.
Yes, my apology, Chair.
Sorry.
The resolution is, and further, that the recommendation be brought forward to the February 2023 County Council Budget Workshop for approval, and that further that a report be presented during the 2025 budget cycle, which would evaluate the progress, benefits, and impacts associated with the changes resulted from this business case. That's the complete resolution. My apologies.
Yeah, sorry for that. Are the mover and seconder okay with that? So, okay. All those in favor? And that's carried. All right, we will move on to item number 11.
Thank you, Chair. And item 11 is what Mr. Steckley was here earlier today, the General Manager of Engineering for the town of Arnprior. So this is the intersection realignment for County Road 2, Daniel Street South, town of Arnprior. So the recommendation here is that the Operations Committee prioritize the Daniel Street intersection project for the 2023 budget, and further that staff ready options for capital works projects deferral for the 2023 budget workshop discussions.
Can I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor from Arnprior, seconded by Councillor from Madawaska Valley. Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Chair. And the background is there for you as was presented by Mr. Steckley, but the conclusion here is that the realignment of this intersection would provide immediate safety improvement to the high-volume county road and would provide greater safety benefits as traffic volumes continue to grow. Through $700,000, those $700,000 is a substantial sum. It can be accommodated with the identified budget adjustments. It is staff's conclusion that the cost of contributing to the intersection realignment at the intersection of County Road 2, Galvin Street, and Edie Street is outweighed by the safety benefits and traffic flow improvements. Thank you.
Okay, questions, comments from members of the committee. Councillor from Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of general comments. This intersection feeds the Lutheran Church and the Junior St. John 23rd School, where there's a ton of kids walk there. Unlike the new French school where they're going to be bused, there is no buses to this school. The second part is I was going to have Chief Nolan as a paramedic and the OPP. When they're responding to some sort of emergency, they can't get in to the new subdivision because of the island. They can't make a left. They've got to go in the opposite lane to go to the emergency. So again, under emergency response, every second counts when you're alive. And for, again, with the X or a cross for an intersection, it alleviates all the emergency services problems. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for that. I remember some of the discussion around this and this intersection and the need for this upgrade, rehabilitation is coming from development in the town of Arnprior. Once again, I'm going to state, this might be a perfect example or some support why we should be looking at development charges. So for the future, obviously. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. It's embedded in here. I just want to raise it again. There is obviously, and I'm sympathetic and empathetic to the needs of Arnprior, and I'm familiar with this intersection. I have to just point out for the record, this does cause a cascading effect, and I know it'd be the purview of this committee and council. We are tasked with a very aggressive cap and aggressive public works schedule. Adding another asset, if you will, another project will create a cascading effect. You've heard soft suggestion, and if you paid attention during one of the presentations, you'll notice I've actually asked them to remove it because staff or council will have to review the project list, if you will, for 2023, what won't get done, because this will get done. So this is why the wording is very specific in this motion, that it needs to be prioritized. So this council or this committee has to recommend it, and council has to put it on the list for things to be done. But this will mean likely a couple of projects not being done or being deferred to following year. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Again, I'm not against this or for it or otherwise. I just wanted to make committee aware and point that out, point out the obvious, I suppose.
Yeah. So I guess through that process we'll find that. But one of the questions I had jotted down is what gets deferred. So that'll be a decision I guess we'll have to look at, and it's probably not only what's deferred in 23, but that's going to affect 24 and 25. So potentially, unless we have more capacity in 24 or 25. So, Councillor for Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. On that note, last year we deferred a number of projects under operations to come to 2023, and one of the comments was we're ensuring that we're not going to slide it over to 24 and then 25, and it was sort of agreed that those projects that were coming forward from 22 would be done from this year. So I wouldn't want to see those guys bumped to 25 in order for Arnprior to get done. But at the same time, as the CEO has said, I agree with the prioritizing and chips where they fall. I'm just hoping our Empire is one of the top ones. Thank you. Having said that, sorry, what's a life worth? Thank you. Bye.
All right, on that note, so any further questions or comments on item number 11? All right, then I will call a question. All in favor? And that's carried. That's carried, yeah. Sorry, I actually had to count there.
We're losing them.
I'll move on to item number 12.
Thank you, Chair. And this is the carryover from 2022 capital plan to 2023 capital plan. The recommendation here is that the Operations Committee approves the carryover of 2 projects from the 2022 capital plan as follows. County Road 24, which is Whitewater Road from Highway 17 to County Road 40, which is Greenwood Road, in the amount of $388,000, and County Road 517, Defoe Road from Sarin Road to County Road 62, Combermere Road, in the amount of $70,000. And further that this recommendation be brought forward to the February 22nd, 2023 County Council Budget Workshop for approval.
Thank you for that. Can I have a mover and seconder for the resolution, please? Councillor from Laurentian Valley and seconded by the councillor from Arnprior. Background, I guess.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And the background here is following a review of the outstanding 2022 capital plan projects, it was noted that these 2 projects, County Road 24 and County Road 517, were inadvertently omitted from the 2023 capital plan as carryovers from 2022. So these carryover charges are required in order to complete these projects that were started in 2022. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any comments, questions? Kind of have to do it, really. All those in favor? And that's carried. And I believe that's the last of the items, resolutions. Not sure where I have to go back to on the agenda here now, though.
Back to agenda, item 8, new business.
Right.
We'll need to have a approval of the report as a whole first.
Right. So have we reviewed, did I ask to review all the items in all the reports? Okay, because I had to go back. Okay, fair enough. Okay, can I have a mover and seconder for acceptance of the report as a whole? Moved by Councillor from McNabb Braeside, seconded by the Councillor from Madawaska Valley. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. And I believe we're moving on to item number 8, new business. Is there any new business for committee at this time? Seeing none, I believe we have a closed meeting. Can we take a short break? I think, what are we, 3:42? What, 3:50? 7 minutes? Is that good? Okay, we're adjourned for till 3:50. Thank you. Welcome back after our short break. So we're going to move into a closed session. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor from Madawaska Valley and Councillor from Horton. All those in favor? That's carried. We're moving into closed. Thank you for that. We're now back in open session. I just point out the date of our next meeting is Tuesday, March 7th. Not February, March. I heard that at the previous committee. So Tuesday, March 7th, and our fine colleague from the Township of Horton will be chairing that meeting for me in my absence. Just a reminder, budget workshop on February 22nd and 23rd if necessary. I've been here for 8 years and we haven't needed the second day yet, but I'm not sure about this year. I'm not trying to jinx it or anything. County Council, Wednesday, March 1st. That's it. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor from Madawaska Valley, Councillor from Laurentian Valley. All those in favor? That is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.